Welcome back, fellow Jungians, to Jung at Night. Tonight, we're entering one of the most tender, most necessary spaces in the human heart. The place where love, loneliness, and longing all meet. The question that haunts so many of us in the quiet hours. Why do I keep choosing people who can't love me the way I deserve? But before we begin, let me remind you of something important. You're not here to take notes. You're not here to solve anything tonight. You're here to rest, to let Jung's wisdom on love, projection, and self-worth dissolve into your unconscious while you drift into the peace you've been searching for. So go ahead, let your body sink deeper into the bed. Feel the weight of your head against the pillow. Notice your breathing slowing, your muscles releasing the tension they've been holding all day. There's nothing you need to fix right now. Nothing you need to become. Tonight, you are simply here, listening, letting go. As we move through the psychology of need, the patterns of projection, and the journey back to loving yourself, just let it wash over you, like a gentle tide, carrying away what no longer serves you. You don't have to remember any of this. Your soul already knows the way home. Jung believed that true transformation happens not through effort, but through awareness meeting surrender. And tonight, that's exactly what we're offering you. Awareness wrapped in rest, healing woven into sleep. So close your eyes if they're not already closed. Let the world outside fade to nothing, and let me ask you something that might change everything. Have you ever felt this? You pour your heart, your emotions, even change who you are just to make someone stay. You hope that if you care enough, are kind enough, love enough, they will choose you. But no, they still leave, and you're left wondering, am I still not good enough? From a young age, you were taught that love is the missing half of a puzzle. That you must change yourself to fit with another. That to feel worthy, someone else must love you first. But Carl Jung points out the opposite. If you are not aware of your worth, you will endlessly repeat relationships that make you feel worthless, always begging from others what you have never learned to give yourself. Love. And only when you love yourself enough, not through words, but by setting boundaries, refusing to accept less than you deserve, learning to be alone yet whole. Only then will the right person come. Not because you need them, but because you no longer need anyone to fill your emptiness. In today's video, we will explore why when you love yourself enough, you will attract a completely different kind of love. Stay until the end. Because the love you're searching for might not lie in someone's words, but in the awakening waiting within you. Number 1. Love born from need is not love. You think you're seeking love, but most of the time you're searching for an anesthetic to numb the pain you've never dared to face. You say you want a secure relationship, someone who loves you sincerely. But look closely. How many times have you fallen into relationships that made you feel small, anxious, and entirely dependent on the other person's emotions? How many times have you asked yourself, why do I always meet the same kind of people? Why am I always the one who loves more? And how many times after each heartbreak did you swear things would be different, only to fall back into the same cycle? That's not bad luck. That's an unconscious wound repeating itself over and over until you're awake enough to face it head on. Carl Jung said that you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are in the depths of your consciousness, where fears, buried traumas, and limiting beliefs you've long hidden still control you like an invisible string. Take a familiar example. A woman who always falls for cold, distant men who never fully open their hearts. Each time a relationship ends, she says, "Next time, I'll choose someone kinder." But the next time, she picks someone just the same, only with a different name and face. Why? Because she hasn't spent time with herself. And deep in her unconscious, she carries an unspoken belief. I'm not worthy of being fully loved. I have to try. I have to prove I'm good enough. And so she is unconsciously drawn to people who trigger that feeling again, where being loved means striving to be chosen. This is the cruel trap of an unawakened mind. You think you're in love, but you're reenacting an old script with new actors, and you call it love. But no, it's emotional dependency in disguise. Love that stems from lack is not love. It's emotional bargaining. You love, but it's to fill a void, to fill the emptiness, to fill the fear of being alone, to fill the feeling that no one needs you. You love not because you're whole, but because you lack love for yourself. And that's why that love cannot last. It cannot be healthy because it doesn't come from freedom. It comes from need. And everything born from need will always create some form of dependency. Now be honest with yourself when you love. Do you find yourself becoming a different person, more sensitive, more vulnerable, more panicked when the other person doesn't respond as you expect? That's because you're not truly loving them. You're clinging to the idea that they can heal you. And that's where the suffering begins. If you recognize you've been this way, leave a comment to let me know that what I'm saying has touched you. Jung called this identification with the wound, when you haven't separated your true self from the part of you that's been hurt. Instead of healing it, you seek someone to carry it for you, to love you enough to make you forget your insecurities. But no one can do that, and so you keep being disappointed, you keep hurting, you keep demanding, and you keep repeating. Love born from need is like building a house on sand. It seems solid at first, but a single wave is enough to make everything collapse because it's not grounded in an inner foundation. It depends entirely on the other person's presence, words, and actions. And so you turn your lover into the keeper of your emotional keys. They leave, you crumble, they stay. You breathe a sigh of relief. That's not love. It's a form of emotional addiction, and that kind of love will always be a beautiful but dangerous illusion until you're brave enough to look it in the face. You'll keep running in circles, hoping someone will love you the right way instead of doing that for yourself. Imagine a man who's just gone through a breakup. Instead of pausing to feel the pain within, to understand, to learn from this wound, he rushes into dating apps, talking to anyone who gives him the feeling of being loved, of being chosen. He thinks he's opening up to new love. But in reality, he's running from himself. And all he meets are people who are also running. Relationships born from two people who are lacking, who are in a hurry, who connect through fear rather than peace. And then he's disappointed again, feels abandoned again, believes that love is suffering, but he doesn't see the most important thing. The energy he puts out is shaping the kind of love he receives. And so, if all you have within is anxiety, fear, and a desperate need for validation, you won't attract anything but people who trigger those same feelings. To change the love you attract, you can't start from the outside. You must go within. Recognize the old fear. Bring it to light. And instead of finding someone to fill it, start asking, why do I believe I'm not enough? Where did that belief come from? Is it true? No one can love you enough to make you feel enough. That doesn't exist. The only thing that can change everything is when you stop needing love as an emotional crutch and start walking on your own 2 feet. It sounds harsh, but it's a truth few dare to face. True love is not an addiction. People often mistake emotional hunger for love. When you're starving, you'll accept any food. But that doesn't mean the food is delicious or nourishing. Love born from need is how we betray ourselves, how we hand the right to be loved to someone else. And there's something even harder to realize. We don't just love in the wrong way. We also see the wrong people. Because most of what you think is love is merely a reflection of yourself through the shadow of the other. Number 2, the mechanism of projection in relationships. Jung once said, the best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. According to him, love is not merely an emotion. It is a mirror that precisely reflects your inner state and psychological structure. You don't just love someone for who they are, but because they awaken something unacknowledged within you. We often think that the encounters in our lives are coincidental. Meeting someone in class, at work, through a friend, a chance encounter on the street, or a swipe on an app. But no, these encounters that alter the course of events don't follow any tangible logic, aren't planned, and don't depend on algorithms or control. In Carl Jung's world, nothing is random, especially not people. The person you meet is the one your inner world is calling for. Carl Jung asserted that each of us is not only driven by the conscious mind, the part you know and control, but also guided by a deeper layer, the collective unconscious, formed by instincts and archetypes. These manifest as rituals, symbols, and primal images from the earliest times suppressed by consciousness. Humans cannot consciously perceive these archetypes, but they carry intense feelings about them. In love, the most powerful archetypes are thema and animus. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect in a man's psyche, representing tenderness, nurturing, emotion, and intuition. The animus is the unconscious masculine aspect in a woman's psyche, embodying reason, action, strength, and ideals. Every person, regardless of gender, carries within them an idealized image of the other, shaped by these archetypes. When you meet someone who matches this inner archetypal image, you're not just attracted, you feel a sense of destiny, as if the universe sent them to complete you. The difference is it feels predestined, as if an invisible thread connects two separate life experiences from distinct worlds. Jung said that some connections are formed before life gives them a name. This isn't poetry, it's a theory of the unconscious. Beneath the surface of events, something deeper is at work. Nothing happens by chance. In this context, chance isn't random. It's a language. What you call fate is perhaps just the movement of the unconscious interacting with the external world. They come as mirrors, not to please you, but to reflect you. The key point is you don't need to know what frequency you're emitting. Your unconscious is doing that for you. The suppressed desires for love, the feelings of inadequacy about yourself, the beliefs you absorbed as a child but never questioned, all of these are broadcasting energy. And because of this, every person who comes to you carries a message not to pass by, but to reflect the deepest layers within you. Like a door opening amidst everyday life, they step in and activate a part of you that's been asleep. You might meet someone quiet, distant, who hurts you by making you feel ignored or abandoned. But if you look deeply and honestly, you'll see that the feeling isn't caused by them. It's been within you for a long time. The part of you that always craves and needs love to affirm itself. If at this point you see a glimpse of yourself in this, pause for a moment and leave a sign, maybe a symbol, a comment below, so others and you know you're not alone in this journey. That's how the shadow within us finds its way to the light. Not through theories or books, but through real people, real emotions, real pain. And that's why, despite the hurt, these encounters are necessary. The truth is, you don't happen to meet anyone. You meet the right person for the lesson you need. The one who hurts you comes to reflect your pain. The one who makes you tremble comes to reflect your false beliefs. The one who makes you feel like yourself comes to remind you you deserve to be yourself. And that's the trap, because we don't love them for who they are. We love a projected image from within. We love who we think they are, not the real person. When love stems from projection, it's illusory. And when the fog of illusion clears, we feel disappointed, angry, hurt. But instead of turning inward to reflect, we seek someone new to project onto. And the cycle continues. But projection is only the surface. What keeps us trapped in unhealthy relationships at a deeper level is the unconscious energy we emit, the energy of lack. Number 3, the energy of lack. You may not say it out loud. You may hide your emotions, but energy doesn't lie. Others sense your need for love, sense that you're someone who doesn't know how to love themselves, not through words, but through the way you look at them too long. Wait for their response too eagerly. Stay silent with too much anxiety, or try too hard just to be acknowledged. Carl Jung once said that you don't control what you're not aware of. It controls you, and it's this energy of lack, this intense but invisible craving that makes love grow cold no matter how hard you try. Be honest. How many times have you felt overwhelmed when someone didn't reply to your message for a few hours? How many times have you checked their stories, status updates, or photos just to guess what they're thinking, where they are, who they're with? How many times have you pretended to be fine while inside? You're a tidal wave waiting for them to do something to make you feel secure. That's the energy of need, and it's not only exhausting for you, it's what makes others gradually pull away from you. In psychology, this is called attachment anxiety, a form of anxious attachment. But in Jung's language, it's a form of unintegrated shadow. When you need love to feel worthy, you're handing your soul to someone else without realizing it. You're not truly loving. You're begging for validation. People don't pull away because you're not beautiful, not interesting, or not good enough. They pull away because they sense the weight of the expectations you place on them to make you feel secure, whole, and worthy. No one can sustain that role for long, and so they retreat and you feel abandoned again. You believe I'm not enough again, and the cycle restarts. Jung said that where there is desire, there is bondage. Desire here isn't lust, but the absolute need for someone to fill the void within you. The energy of need is vastly different from the desire to connect. Desire comes from wholeness. I want you in my life, but I'm still me without you. Need comes from lack. If you're not here, I don't know who I am. This is the critical difference between healthy love and obsessive love. The challenge is, you can't easily see this energy in yourself because it lies deep in the unconscious like an undercurrent. You believe you're in love, but really you're afraid. And that fear makes you act in ways that repel others, even unintentionally, asking too many questions, getting irrationally upset, constantly needing reassurance. These are all manifestations of the energy of need, which invisibly pushes love away even when you want to pull it closer. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He described the unconscious as an iceberg. The tip is consciousness, but below lies a vast subconscious, a realm holding past experiences, traumas, insecurities, and most importantly, our projections onto the world. Think about how fear creeps into your life, often unnoticed. It disguises itself as doubt when you question whether you're good enough to love someone else. It hides in procrastination when you delay what you truly desire out of fear of failure. It manifests in relationships where you give too much just to avoid loneliness or the fear that no one needs you. Look around. People who naturally attract others don't do so because they try hard, but because they don't need to. They are themselves. They are at peace. They don't emit a frequency of anxiety. And that groundedness makes them energetically magnetic. They don't play mind games. They don't strain. They're at ease with their presence. The truth is, love doesn't fear your imperfections, but it flees when you radiate the energy of begging. And that begging doesn't need to be spoken. It shows in the way you wait too long, forgive too quickly, sacrifice too much, and don't dare ask for anything out of fear they'll leave you. So, if you're in a relationship and feel the other person growing distant, before you blame them, look at the energy you're carrying. Are you loving as a free person or as someone needing salvation? Are you interacting from peace or panic? Are you opening your heart or clinging? The harsh truth is others sense it all, not with their minds but with their instincts, and human instinct avoids invisible pressure. Even if someone loves you, if they feel trapped by your energy, they'll pull back because they too need space to be themselves. To keep love, you don't need to try harder, you need less. When you no longer love because you lack, but because you want to connect, you start emitting a different energy. The energy of someone who is themselves, who doesn't need saving, doesn't need validation, and is simply present. But to be fully present like that requires more than changing behavior. It demands a deeper process, the journey back to your true self. This is what Jung called individuation. Number 4. Individuation, the key to true love. Carl Jung called individuation the process of becoming wholly oneself. The most important journey a person can undertake in life. The journey to become your true self, not a copy of someone else, no longer manipulated by expectations, wounds, or idealized images from others. And it is this journey, not anything external, that is the key to attracting true love. A love that no longer stems from lack, but from freedom. Have you ever wondered, why do I keep choosing people who can't love me the way I deserve, then try to change them to fill a deep void? Jung explained this, not through ordinary reasoning, but through the language of a divided soul. When you haven't individuated, when you still haven't loved yourself and are disconnected from the authentic parts of yourself, you will always seek in others what you haven't dared to face within. Individuation is not about becoming independent in the stereotyped modern sense of the word. It doesn't mean you must live alone, do everything alone, or need no one. Individuation is about starting to see who you are, what you're carrying, which wounds are silently controlling you, and accepting and integrating all those parts to become a unified, conscious, and free entity capable of making choices. Imagine a woman who always carries a fear of abandonment. As a child, she was emotionally neglected by her parents, not through violence, but through their emotional absence. She never learned to love herself because she never received that love from her parents. So instead of nurturing self-love, she always felt inadequate, believing that to be loved, she had to be agreeable, not bother anyone. As an adult in relationships, she repeats this pattern, always being the one who gives more, sacrifices, compromises, stays silent, and swallows her emotions. She believes that if she's good enough, people won't leave her. But they all leave her, not because she's unlovable, but because everything she expresses is cloaked in the energy of someone who has never loved themselves. She loves out of fear, not freedom. She loves from a distorted self-image shaped to fit, not from her full and authentic essence. She's living through a temporary ego created to survive in an emotionally impoverished environment. And that ego, when it loves, can only create a counterfeit love, a transaction of dependency, not a deep connection. Jung once said that no one can see outward if they haven't looked inward. This means you cannot truly see or love another person if you don't know who you are, don't understand what you need, and haven't confronted the parts of yourself you've rejected. Individuation is the journey of accepting your entire being, both light and shadow, both weakness and strength, both wounds and potential. And when you do this, you begin to love not because you need someone to make you feel enough, but because you are enough and want to connect from that fullness. The irony is many people think they've grown up, that they're free, but they're still living as children inside adult bodies. They enter love with the naive expectation that someone will fully understand them, love them unconditionally, and heal all their unspoken wounds, without realizing that every time they love out of lack, they're dragging old wounds along and placing them on the other person. And sooner or later, that person cannot bear the weight. Individuation is a painful process because it requires you to face the parts you've always wanted to avoid. The emptiness, the loneliness, the fear. You can no longer blame others for causing your pain. You can no longer hide in the role of love's victim. You must take responsibility for what you choose. You must have the courage to peel away every layer of disguise, every defense mechanism, every story you've told yourself, to return to the real, unadorned, unconditional you. Once you've made peace with yourself and learned to love your imperfections, you'll realize true love is not about merging or finding the other half. True love happens when two individuated people, two souls at peace with themselves, choose to walk together, not to fill a void, but to amplify each other's light. And when love comes from that place, it's no longer insecure. You no longer cling to the other person to hold on to a sense of worth. You don't control, don't demand, don't require them to prove their love every day to make you feel safe. Because the safety you need, you've already created within yourself. If you resonate with what I've shared, leave a comment, a symbol, or simply write, "I'm on this journey too," below. Your words might touch someone else quietly navigating their darkness. And who knows, you might not be alone. In a world where most people love from fear, from wounds, from unrealistic romantic expectations, individuation is a revolutionary act. It doesn't just change how you love, it changes the entire energy you emit. And that energy, not your appearance, words, or actions, will determine the kind of people you attract and the kind of love you can sustain. Individuation has no finish line. It's a lifelong process, a long series of encounters with yourself in silence, in solitude, in turmoil. With every step you take deeper into yourself, you step away from half-hearted relationships, connections steeped in emotional addiction, and the cycles of dependent love. The love you attract will bring you closer to yourself, to its true essence, a freedom, a prioritization of self, a relationship that doesn't consume you but helps you grow. Number 5. The journey of transformation from chaser to attractor. No one can love you but you. No one can make you feel whole if you don't believe you're worthy. No relationship, no matter how beautiful, can fill a void you've never dared to face. And that's why this journey of transformation doesn't begin with others. It begins within you. Carl Jung didn't offer sweet consolations. He didn't paint psychology as a rosy therapy. Jung was the one who pulled you back to the center of your pain and demanded you stay there. Face the darkness head-on, and from it find true light. In the journey to heal from the energy of dependency, you'll have to do what few dare. Stay alone, awake without escaping, and learn to return to yourself step by step. Below is a simple yet powerful psychological exercise to help you nurture self-love. If you're brave enough to try it, comment below. I'm ready to change, so we can embark on this journey together. The first exercise begins with reflecting on your current or past relationships. Ask yourself, what is my current relationship? Reflecting. Am I in a relationship where I'm always the one texting first? Always the one making peace after every fight? Always the one sacrificing comfort to keep the peace? Dig deeper. Where in this relationship am I being neglected? Perhaps you hesitate to set boundaries out of fear they'll leave. Perhaps you feel lonely even in a relationship because you stopped sharing your true feelings long ago. These are signs that you're abandoning yourself in this love. And starting today, I want you to commit to yourself to pause all behaviors driven by the need to be loved or reassured. This means don't text to check in, even if you miss them, even if you worry they're upset, even if you want to confirm they still care. You don't need to check. You need to trust that if someone truly connects with you, they'll show up out of their desire without prompting or reminders. You don't need a reply to know your worth. You don't need your name lighting up a screen to know you deserve love. Your value doesn't lie in someone else's response. It lies in the commitment you make to yourself. The second exercise. Practice intentional solitude. Being alone isn't passive loneliness where you curl up with your phone waiting for someone to ease your emptiness. This is purposeful stillness, choosing to silence external noise to hear your inner voice more clearly. Try these steps. Journal your emotions daily. Every morning or before bed, write down everything you feel. Confusion, pain, anger, excitement. It doesn't need to be eloquent or polished, just honest. Writing untangles the unconscious, bringing the light of awareness to where emotional darkness reigns. Next, face loneliness without avoidance. Instead of filling the void with movies, social media, food, or random texts, sit still, truly sit. Feel the emptiness spread from your chest, your stomach, the invisible space around you. Don't rush to fill it. Ask it. Where did you come from? What do you want? In that silence, you'll start hearing sounds you've always tried to drown out. Your heart's voice, old memories, outdated beliefs, unhealed wounds. These aren't enemies. They're the map guiding you back to yourself. The third exercise, focus on nurturing your inner world. Ask yourself how much time you've spent trying to be loved by others. How much energy did you pour into becoming someone's ideal? It's time to reclaim that energy and give it to yourself. Not through superficial self-indulgence, but by truly building an inner foundation. Care for your body, recognizing it as your most sacred temple, the vessel holding every emotional wound. A balanced diet, enough sleep, and daily movement don't just make you healthier. They reduce the unconscious stress that makes you prone to dependency. When you feel clearer in your body, you make clearer emotional decisions. Embrace creativity. Write, draw, play music, design, cook. Anything that makes you feel you're creating, living, and connecting with the world through your abilities. Creative acts are among the most powerful ways to heal a fractured self, as they awaken an intrinsic value only you can bring forth. And something crucial I must emphasize: reconnect with yourself. Schedule time each day for things that make you feel truly alive. A walk in the evening sun, a chapter of a book that helps you understand yourself better, or brewing a cup of tea and sipping it slowly. These aren't trivial, they're the strongest affirmation. I choose to stay with myself. I no longer need to escape. When you do these things, you're not just withdrawing energy from others, you're transforming yourself from within. You're telling your subconscious, I'm ready to stop loving out of need. I'm ready to love from fullness. And from that place where you don't need anyone to make you feel enough, where you don't seek love to be saved, a new energy begins to radiate from you. Groundedness, calm, an allure not rooted in appearance but in your true essence. Number 6, the kind of love that comes when you love yourself. When you no longer live in a state of lack, you emit a different frequency. A kind of energy that doesn't beg but invites, doesn't cling but attracts, doesn't crave but rests in ease. This energy, as Jung described, is the hallmark of a soul that has moved beyond projection and begun to converge into its authentic self. You no longer need to find someone to fill a void because within you, you've built a life worth living. And from that place, you start drawing in what you once chased after in your lack, always striving but never reaching. When you need too much, you make everything naturally retreat. But when you no longer need, you become a magnetic force for what is good. Carl Jung said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." Wholeness comes when you begin to attract healthy relationships. People come, stay, and strive to truly connect with you because they see your fullness. They sense that being near you doesn't mean carrying your emotions. They don't have to prove anything. They can be themselves, and so can you. You start attracting opportunities that align with your true nature, because you're no longer acting just to be validated. You move from clarity, no longer pulled by the fear of being left behind, and that makes you more decisive, deeper, and more creative. You attract genuine, unconditional, non-exploitative affection. You draw in people who are straightforward, stable, and honest because you've stopped pretending to be liked. You attract those who love, not because they can make you happy, but because they're already happy and want to share that with you. This is the love of two free individuals, not two people trying to patch their wounds with each other, but two who have stepped out of emotional addiction, who have learned to live authentically, fully, slowly, and deeply. And so they choose each other, not out of need, but out of want, not to fill a void, but because both have loved themselves wholly. Love, then, is no longer a reward for being good enough. It's the natural response of two souls resonating on the same frequency. They don't try to cling to each other. They don't try to control each other. They don't stay together out of fear of loss. They choose to stay every day because among countless options, they still choose each other. It's no longer necessary. It's conscious companionship. And the wonderful thing is, when you're in this state, even if someone walks out of your life, you no longer collapse because you know love doesn't define your worth. It only reflects what you already carry within. You'll still hurt, but you won't lose yourself. And then other worthy things will come. Not on schedule, not according to script, but at the moment you stop craving and start loving yourself. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Ultimately, the answer to the relationship you long for doesn't lie in the other person. It lies in the essence of the energy you emit every day. And the miracle is you can change that whenever you choose to pause, turn inward, and start putting yourself first, just as Jung told us. But if you have nothing at all to create, then perhaps you create yourself. True love doesn't come from straining to be loved. It comes when you stop trying to be someone else and start living as yourself. No controlling, no clinging, no begging, just a powerful, grounded presence. No one falls in love. They fall into themselves, into the part they've never dared to see. And true love, if it exists, is the natural response of a soul that has returned to its essence. And now, let your breathing deepen even more. Feel yourself sinking further into rest. You've traveled through the landscape of love, of projection, of the journey back to yourself. But there's something else waiting beneath all of that. Something quieter, yet perhaps even more powerful. Because even when you learn to love yourself, even when you stop seeking validation from others, there's still one final thing that keeps you from true freedom. One last grip you haven't loosened: worry. That endless loop in your mind. The tightness in your chest when things feel uncertain. The need to control, to plan, to make sure everything turns out exactly as you've imagined. Jung understood that self-love is only half the journey. The other half is learning to trust. Not in others, not in outcomes, but in life itself, in the natural rhythm that exists beyond your calculations. So as you drift deeper now, as your body grows heavier and your thoughts grow softer, let me ask you something that might change everything. Have you ever noticed that everything suddenly becomes easier, smoother, the very moment you stop worrying? It sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? All our lives, we've been taught that to succeed, we must plan meticulously, fight relentlessly, and control every detail. Yet, the truth is, the tighter we cling, the more we try to control, the more life slips through our fingers. Carl Jung, a profound explorer of the human unconscious, pointed out that worry does not make us stronger. On the contrary, it is a defense mechanism of the ego, a way to mask our powerlessness in the face of a stark reality. Some things will never be within our control. And in that moment of clinging, we drift away from the present, away from ourselves. Letting go, in Jung's perspective, is not surrender or helplessness. It is an act of awakening. When we cease worrying, the energy trapped in control is released. And surprisingly, Life guided by a hidden intelligence begins to arrange itself in a strange and mysterious order. But the question remains, why does something as simple as letting go become the path to true freedom? And when we stop worrying, what truly happens within our soul? In today's video, we will dive deep into Carl Jung's philosophy to unravel a seemingly simple paradox: why everything falls into place only when you stop worrying. But let's be clear, this is no magic pill. Ceasing to worry means confronting the voids you've long avoided, the shadows you've feared. Yet it is precisely in that moment that you touch a freedom deeper than any assurance. The freedom to live as your true self, without pretense, without force. Number 1. The psychological mechanism of worry. The ego's trap. Worry is like a thick fog cloaking the mind. It blurs everything, turning the ordinary into threats, convincing you that if you stop planning, stop controlling, you'll plummet into an abyss. But Carl Jung argued that worry is not the necessary preparation we often believe it to be. Instead, it is a cunning deception of the ego, making us think we're in control of life, while in reality, we're imprisoned in an invisible jail of our own making. The ego operates like a frantic jailer, standing guard at the door of the unconscious. It despises uncertainty and trembles at the thought of things beyond its ability to predict. To maintain the illusion of control, the ego produces worry as a shield. It's like an incessant alarm, blaring, reminding you, if you don't prepare, if you don't calculate, if you don't control, you'll be destroyed. Ironically, this very alarm drowns out everything else. You no longer hear your body, your intuition, or most certainly the voice of the self, the deeper essence within you. Jung once said, "Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering." In this light, worry is a form of mild neurosis. It doesn't truly resolve pain, but merely substitutes for experiencing that pain directly. Instead of embracing uncertainty, we try to evade it through spirals of anxiety. But just as painkillers mask symptoms without curing the root illness, worry only conceals the problem, never bringing true peace. Think of those sleepless nights when you toss and turn, your mind racing like a fast-forwarded film. What if they don't reply to my email tomorrow? What if I fail the interview? What if this relationship falls apart? Each what if is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your imagination, sprouting into a dense forest of catastrophic scenarios. But have you noticed, while your body lies safely in bed, your mind wanders through worlds that don't even exist? That is the essence of worry, abandoning the present to live in imaginary nightmares. The ego loves this. It feels important when it's at the wheel, even if that wheel isn't attached to any vehicle. Worry then is a form of false labor of the mind. You feel like you're doing something useful, thinking, calculating, predicting, but in reality, you're just draining your energy. It's like running on a treadmill in a gym. The more you run, the more exhausted you become. Yet, you never truly move forward. In Jungian psychology, worry can also be seen as a distorted mirror. It doesn't reflect reality, but magnifies and warps it, making us feel more fragile than we are. For instance, a student facing an exam might spend weeks fidgeting. I'll fail. I'll ruin my future. Everything will collapse. But from an outside perspective, it's just an exam, a learning experience. Worry transforms a simple event into a catastrophe. Much like a carnival mirror distorts the reflection of the person standing before it. The danger lies in how worry becomes a habit. When the brain grows accustomed to reacting with anxiety, it automatically seeks out triggers to worry about. Even when everything is fine, the ego whispers, maybe disaster is coming and I just haven't seen it yet. It's like someone constantly bracing for a storm, so much so that even on a clear day, they hear imaginary thunder. Thus, the mind becomes locked in a state of perpetual false alarms. Jung saw a deeper truth here. Worry is not just a psychological reaction, but a manifestation of our fear of the inner darkness. Instead of sitting still to face the void, the uncertainty that is life's essence, the ego creates worry to avoid it. It's like a child afraid of the dark who, instead of sitting quietly in the room, runs in circles, turning on every light. But that light is never enough to dispel the fear, because the fear lies within, not in the room itself. For example, many people worry incessantly in love. They cling to their partner believing that losing them would lead to collapse. But in truth, they're not afraid of losing the other person. They're afraid of losing the part of themselves they've unconsciously projected onto their partner. Security, validation, meaning. This is the ego's game. It forces you to worry about hiding a painful truth. The inner emptiness you've never confronted. Worry, therefore, is not merely a negative emotion. It is a signal like smoke rising from a burning room. It indicates something inside needs attention. But instead of entering the room, the ego often chooses to turn on a fan to blow the smoke away. Thus, worry never ends because the root cause continues to smolder beneath. Jung emphasized, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When we fail to recognize that worry is merely a veil, we let it steer our lives and call it destiny. But in truth, it's a destiny scripted by the ego, not the self. To put it vividly, worry is the rein the ego ties to your hands. It convinces you that letting go will send the horse galloping wildly. But in reality, the horse is the natural flow of life, powerful with its own rhythm, capable of carrying you far beyond the ego's imagination. Only when you realize the rein is unnecessary do you begin to feel free. Worry is not our natural state. Children, before they learn to fear, can play in the rain, fall, and laugh. They haven't yet learned to construct terrifying scenarios in their minds. As we grow, as the persona and ego take hold, we adopt the habit of anxiety. This shows that worry is not an eternal truth, but a learned mechanism, and anything learned can be unlearned. Thus, when Jung says that when you stop worrying, everything falls into place, he isn't suggesting shallow optimism. He's pointing out that worry doesn't truly prepare us. It is merely a product of the ego, the frantic jailer terrified of the unconscious darkness. And only by looking directly at this mechanism do we begin to escape the mind's most cunning trap, the illusion of control. Number 2, the essence of letting go. Not laziness, but awakening. But beware. Letting go is entirely different from the laziness or surrender many mistake it for. It is not the act of a defeated person, but the choice of someone awakened. Imagine a swimmer panicking in a whirlpool. The more they struggle, the more exhausted they become. The more they flail, the deeper they sink. Then, in a moment of desperation, they stop and suddenly realize their body can float when they cease resisting. Letting go is like that, not abandoning life, but halting the futile struggle against it. Jung saw letting go as an act of profound wisdom, requiring trust in an order greater than the small self. In our modern society, where human value is often tied to productivity, achievement, and control, letting go is easily labeled as laziness. Someone who rests, who doesn't rush or compete, is immediately suspected. Are they falling behind? Do they lack ambition? But letting go in the Jungian sense is the opposite of stagnation. It is an active state of observation and presence, rather than being driven by the ego's fear. The one who lets go doesn't do nothing. They act, but from clarity, not panic. A practical example. Many artists share that their best works didn't emerge from force, but from moments of release when they stopped trying to create something great. Musician Paul McCartney said, "The melody for yesterday came to him in a dream, not during hours of strained effort." This shows that when we let go of the ego's compulsion, I must produce something extraordinary, the subconscious and unconscious have space to offer something miraculous. Perhaps this is the moment to pause and ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed something to come to you naturally without forcing it? If you're willing, share in the comments to listen again to the true voice within. Letting go is like opening a window in a stuffy room. While the ego pulls the curtains tight, believing it's protecting us from dust and storms, it's actually depriving us of air. Once the window opens, fresh air rushes in, light pours through, and we realize the world isn't as threatening as the ego painted it. Far from laziness, this is an act of courage, daring to leave the safety of control to connect directly with life's true rhythm. Jung also emphasized that letting go means refusing to identify with outcomes. When we act but believe our worth lies in results, in success, in recognition, worry will always return. Letting go is a subtle shift from I act to prove myself to I act because I am myself. A poet writes not for praise but because the poem is the true breath of their soul. A lover loves not to possess but to experience the vivid presence of love. This is the fundamental difference between laziness and awakening. Laziness is refusing to engage, while letting go is engaging without needing to possess. Picture a bow and arrow. The ego clutches the arrow, fearing that letting go will mean losing everything. But letting go is the moment you release the string, letting the arrow fly toward the direction its inner energy has built. If you don't release, the arrow stays stuck, never reaching its target. Likewise, when we let go of control, life has a chance to reveal its inherent order. This doesn't mean passivity. On the contrary, letting go demands heightened awareness. A mountain climber knows they can't control every gust of wind or loose rock. They prepare, train, and then, on the mountain, they must trust their intuition and the life around them. If they try to control every element, they'll exhaust themselves and fail. But by knowing when to tense and when to relax, they harmonize with the mountain. Letting go, therefore, is a form of practiced wisdom. From a psychological perspective, letting go is a shift from the ego's dominance to the self's guidance. The ego thinks in linear logic. If A, then B. If B, then C. But the self operates in the logic of symbols, intuition, and holistic connection. When we let go, we stop trying to solve life's equation with formulas and allow inner images and feelings to guide us. It's like standing before an unfamiliar forest. The ego demands a detailed map for every step, while the self urges you to listen to the sounds, observe the paths, and let your feet find their own rhythm. In therapy, many patients who try to heal quickly end up stuck, but when they accept that healing is a natural process, that emotional wounds need time, recovery begins in that very acceptance. Letting go isn't rejecting treatment, but ceasing to demand instant okayness. Jung called this an act of trust, a belief in the wisdom of the unconscious. In essence, letting go is the realization that life is not a machine we can program, but a river we must learn to swim with. The lazy person sits on the bank, refusing to enter the water. The controller flails, fighting the current, but the one who lets go flows with the stream, swimming and feeling, and thus reaches farther shores. If worry is the ego's false alarm, letting go is the act of silencing it and listening to the true stillness. In that stillness, we hear the self's voice, gentle, patient, yet persistently guiding us toward truth. This isn't an escape from life, but the first step toward living authentically. So when Jung says letting go is the key to everything falling into place, he invites us into a state of full presence, doing our best without identifying with outcomes, loving wholeheartedly without needing to possess, living fully without demanding life bend to our will. This is the delicate yet profound difference between laziness and awakening. A difference that shapes the entire quality of our existence. Number 3. The root cause of worry: identification with expectations and images. If letting go is a form of awakening, Then conversely, worry always stems from blind identification. We equate our self-worth with the expectations and images that we or society have constructed. This identification is the fertile ground for anxiety to proliferate. Because once we believe that I am my job, I am my relationships, I am the image others see, any crack in those structures becomes a direct threat to our existence. In Jung's view, this is one of the ego's most dangerous illusions. Instead of recognizing ourselves as a vibrant, flexible, ever-changing entity, we shrink ourselves into a single mask. He called this mask the persona, the social costume we don to be accepted. Initially, the persona serves a healthy function. It helps us integrate, play our roles in the world. But the problem arises when we forget we're only acting. At that point, the persona ceases to be a tool and becomes a prison. Take the example of a successful man in his career. He is admired by colleagues and his family is proud. But inside, he is often exhausted by constant worry because he has identified I with the mask of the successful person. A small failure, a single criticism, and his entire world collapses. He no longer sees it as just an event in life, but as an attack on his very identity. Here, worry doesn't come from reality, but from the rift between the image the ego protects and the inner truth. The same happens in love. A woman might worry endlessly about whether her partner still loves her, checking messages hourly, analyzing every tiny gesture. In truth, she's not just afraid of losing a person, but of losing the image of I am lovable, I am chosen. Love, in this case, becomes a mirror for self-worth. When that mirror shakes, the entire psychological foundation shakes with it. Jung believed this was the mechanism of projection. We don't see the other as they truly are, but project onto them our expectations, our unhealed lacks within ourselves. We turn them into characters in our inner script, and since no one can perfectly fulfill a script that isn't theirs, worry becomes an inevitable consequence. It's like watching a movie where the characters refuse to follow the script you've written. Disappointment is unavoidable. Behind this mechanism lies a painful truth. We don't worry about reality, but about reality not matching our ideal image. The ego whispers, everything must be this way. I must succeed. I must be loved. I must always be strong. But life rarely operates on musts. That discrepancy becomes the source of suffering. Worry, in essence, is the gap between expectations and the present. Imagine holding a perfect crystal vase that you treasure immensely. With every step you tremble. What if it falls? What if it cracks? That fear doesn't come from the walking, but from the obsession with preserving that flawless image. Those identified with the persona are the same. They become jailers of their own crystal vase, their self-image, and live in constant tension. This is also why many feel perpetually not enough. When the persona is inflated, the ego turns life into a stage where one must perform endlessly. They are no longer allowed contradictions, mistakes, or changes. And this not allowing spreads worry like a silent disease. They're like exhausted actors backstage. Yet, they must step out smiling so the audience doesn't notice. And perhaps this is the moment for each of us to pause, to ask ourselves, are we protecting real life or just a mask? If tomorrow, all the titles, roles, and images we cling to vanish, could we still recognize who we are? An honest answer will reveal how we've been living all this time. Jung reminds us that the persona is merely a bridge between the outer and inner worlds, never the whole person. But when we fully identify with the mask, any crack becomes a catastrophe. A small rebuke can cause sleepless nights. An ordinary failure can turn into an existential crisis. Worry here isn't because the event is too big, but because we've magnified it to threaten our entire identity. Identification with images also leads to a paradox. The more we try to maintain perfection, the further we stray from authenticity. A leader afraid of being seen as weak will never dare share their insecurities, thus living in isolation. A woman worried about keeping the image of the perfect mother won't allow herself fatigue or anger, thereby accumulating hidden stress. Worry becomes the natural consequence of this split between the real self and the permitted image. It's clear that the root cause of worry doesn't lie in external events, but in internal identification. When we place our entire worth in the persona and expectations, any change in life becomes a fatal blow. The ego whispers, "If this image shatters, you vanish too." And we believe it, trembling as we protect that image every second. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Indeed, as long as we cling to the persona, we'll never dare look at our inner complexity. But the paradox is only when we dare release the image do we approach true wholeness. Worry in this sense is a sign that we're living for expectations, not for our essence. Number 4, the transformation process from worry to inner freedom. So the question arises, how do we escape this trap? Jung suggests that the way out isn't conquering worry but transforming it. And this is a process, a subtle psychological journey where one moves from the darkness of anxiety to the light of inner freedom. This process doesn't begin with outward courage, but with quiet inner recognition. When worry surges, the ego's usual reflex is to suppress it, bury oneself in work, seek validation from others, or mask it with busy activities. But Jung encourages the opposite. Pause and observe worry as a psychological phenomenon. This is like standing under an awning watching a storm instead of fleeing it. The storm may rage, but when we stop identifying with it, we realize it's just part of the weather, not the entire sky. For example, someone fearing rejection in a relationship, instead of trying to control the other, they turn inward and ask, "Am I really afraid of losing this person or of losing the feeling of being loved?" That simple question can reveal a deeper layer. Worry isn't about love, but about the void within oneself. This is the first step of transformation, looking straight at the root, not just treating the symptoms. After recognition comes confrontation. Confrontation means allowing oneself to fully experience the emotions previously avoided. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Awakening always comes with pain as it requires touching our dark parts." When we dare sit still with worry, it may manifest as fear of abandonment, failure, or being forgotten. These emotions initially flood like waves, seeming to drown us. But the paradox is here. The more we allow them to pass through, the quicker they dissipate, leaving an empty but serene space. Once through confrontation, a turning point occurs. The energy trapped in worry is released and redistributed. Jung called this the shift of psychic energy. Instead of channeling all vitality to protect an image, we begin to have energy for real living. The person once anxious about work may discover joy in creation, no longer obsessed with proving themselves. The one who worried about holding on to love may learn to love freely, realizing they no longer need the other to affirm their worth. This is the stage where anxiety begins to transform into freedom. A young artist left a message after watching a Jung video on our channel. Before each exhibition, he worried to the point of losing sleep and appetite, fearing lack of recognition. But one day, instead of resisting, he allowed himself to feel the fear of ridicule. He realized this fear was tied to childhood memories of comparison and denial. When he embraced that emotion instead of fleeing, his creativity gradually returned. Now, the exhibition is no longer a competition but an act of sharing. And paradoxically, when he stopped obsessing, his work was warmly received. This exemplifies the transformation process from worry about image to freedom in presence. In Jung's view, inner freedom isn't a state of no more fear, but the ability to let fear exist without being dominated by it. Like a surfer, they don't need calm seas. they just need balance on the waves. When we learn to stand firm amid worry, we discover a deeper, quiet strength. Jung called this contact with the self, the true center of the soul beyond the ego. Imagine a dense forest. By day, light floods it and we navigate easily. But at night, the forest becomes threatening, every sound evoking anxiety. If we only linger at the edge in fear, we'll never know that deep in the darkness lie streams, meadows, and abundant life. The transformation process is daring to enter the forest at night, at first trembling, but as we go deeper, our eyes adjust to the dark, and a new world unfolds. Inner freedom isn't staying in the light, but venturing into the dark to discover another light, the one emanating from within. It's important to understand that transformation doesn't happen in a magical moment, but in a chain of small daily experiences. Each time we stop fleeing, stop reacting automatically, it is a step. Each time we accept failure without equating it to our worth is a step. Each time we sit still with worry instead of extinguishing it, it's a step. These small steps over time create a major shift from a self imprisoned in anxiety to an essence of inner freedom. This process is also like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. The caterpillar thinks it's dying as the cocoon envelops it, but it's actually transforming. Worry is similar. When we let it envelop us, it can feel suffocating. But if we dare stay in the cocoon, we'll see wings forming. Inner freedom isn't escaping the cocoon, but completing the inner process until one day the wings unfold. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." When we stop letting worry define us and choose to become the observer, the learner, we enter freedom. Anxiety may still appear, but it's no longer a prison. It becomes a teacher pointing out where we need healing, where we need to return to ourselves. In summary, the transformation process from worry to inner freedom is a three-step journey: recognition, confrontation, and release. Each step demands courage as it forces us to look at the truth instead of the image. But through this, worry ceases to be an enemy and becomes a door to growth. And when that door opens, we enter a different space where the ego stops steering and the self guides. That is freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom to live fully within it. Before continuing, if you feel this journey touches you personally, take a moment to support the channel with a like and subscription. It's not just a way to not miss future content, but also a small commitment to yourself to continue walking the path of transformation and inner freedom. Number 5. When we stop worrying, everything is allowed to unfold naturally. And precisely when this release occurs, a curious phenomenon begins to emerge. Life seems to know how to arrange itself. The paradox lies here. The less we force, the more easily things fall into place. Imagine a garden. If you tug at a young plant every day to make it grow faster, you only tear its roots. But when you water it, nurture the soil, and let time and sunlight do their work, the seedling naturally stretches upward. Life is the same. When we stop forcing, stop worrying, we create space for its natural rhythms to unfold. Letting go of anxiety doesn't mean losing control. It restores to life the right to flow according to its essence. Jungian psychology suggests that within each person lies a self-organizing principle, what Jung called the self. This is the deepest center, both the core and the compass of our being. When the ego dominates, we see only chaos as it incessantly demands it must be this way, it must be that way. But when the ego steps back, the self has a chance to emerge, and we begin to notice an invisible order. Seemingly disconnected events start to align. Opportunities appear at just the right moment, and the pieces of life gradually fit together. A common example is those moments of flow the state artists, athletes, or creators experience when they immerse themselves in their work without obsessing over outcomes. A musician who stops worrying about the audience and lets the music flow creates a piece that captivates in unexpected ways. A runner who ceases fixating on performance and tunes into the rhythm of their breath suddenly finds they run farther than ever before. When anxiety dissolves, the energy trapped in control is freed, and life unfolds like a seamless stream. On a spiritual level, this is akin to a lake calming its ripples. Only then can it reflect the sky. Worry is like ceaseless ripples distorting the image, preventing us from seeing the full picture. But when we let the lake settle, the sky appears in its entirety, and we realize the truth was always there. We just hadn't given it a chance to reveal itself. Life in a state free of worry becomes a clear mirror reflecting the essence of things. Interestingly, when we stop worrying, the change isn't just internal but external too. Someone who once feared failure upon letting go often finds success more attainable because they act from clarity rather than fear. Someone who dreaded abandonment when they release their obsession builds healthier relationships as their love is no longer bound by possessiveness. Recall the experience of many students before an exam. When consumed by worry, they cramp, stress, and their memory falters. But when they finally let go, accepting they'll do their best, knowledge flows effortlessly in the exam room. This isn't luck. It's the natural functioning of the mind when no longer choked by anxiety. Similarly, in love, we sometimes exhaust ourselves trying to hold on to someone, but when we stop clinging, that person has the chance to stay with us willingly. And here lies the paradox. True love exists only when it's free to leave. From a psychological perspective, this phenomenon can be explained as follows. Worry keeps the nervous system in a state of tension, activating the fight-or-flight response. In this mode, clarity and intuition are stifled. But when we let go, the nervous system returns to balance and higher functions. Creativity, connection, and understanding can operate. In other words, when we cease worrying, our body and mind become fertile ground for natural growth. It's crucial to understand that stopping worry doesn't mean stopping action. It's not about giving up but shifting our approach. The person who stops worrying still works, loves, and builds their life. But they act from a state of presence, not fear. They're like a rower listening to the river. When the current surges, they steady the oar. When it calms, they ease up. This rhythm of action is no longer driven by anxiety, but by harmony with the flow of reality. Jung called this the alignment of the ego and the self. The ego doesn't vanish. It simply stops acting as a dictator. It makes way for the self, the holistic center to guide. In this collaboration, we begin to feel that life isn't something to be forced, but a natural process unfolding through us. Inner freedom becomes a resonance with that very flow. When this happens, a subtle yet profound shift occurs. Anxiety is no longer the master, but a passing guest. What once caused panic becomes a signal to observe, and in that observation we discover that the world operates within a larger order beyond the ego's plans. Here we truly grasp Jung's words. When we stop worrying, things don't suddenly work out as we want. They work out as they were meant to. So the question for you is, in your current life, which river are you trying to dam? Which garden are you tugging at to force growth? And if you paused, relaxed, and let life unfold, what might bloom? Perhaps the hardest part isn't letting go, but trusting that life knows how to function better than our calculations. This isn't a journey for the impatient, for ceasing to worry isn't an instant technique, but a practice of presence. It's about returning to each moment, listening to the body, the intuition, and gradually realizing that what we thought was dangerous is often just the shadow of images we've constructed. Inner freedom begins at this point when we distinguish between reality and illusion. The wonder lies in this. When we dare release our grip on the imaginary steering wheel of anxiety, life carries us farther than we ever imagined. Then we no longer race against life, but live with it. In the rhythm of a river, the breath of a forest, the light reflected on a still lake. The final question isn't, how do I stop worrying, but am I brave enough to trust the rhythm of life itself? If the answer is yes, then the moment you let go, a new space opens. A place where life is no longer a burden to control, but a journey to experience, to trust, and to fully inhabit. Let your body sink even deeper now. Feel the weight of everything you've been carrying begin to dissolve. You've journeyed through love, through worry, through the art of letting go. And now, as you drift closer to sleep, there's one final truth waiting to reveal itself. Because when you stop forcing love, when you release the grip of worry, something extraordinary happens. Not someday, not eventually. Right now, Jung understood that these aren't separate journeys. They're all part of the same awakening. The moment you stop betraying yourself in relationships, the moment you release the need to control every outcome, is the exact moment your comeback begins. Not the comeback you're waiting for, the one that's already happening. Quietly, invisibly, in the deepest layers of who you're becoming. So as your breathing slows, as your thoughts grow softer and more distant, let me ask you one last question. One that might explain why you're here. In this moment, listening to these words, have you ever wondered why at certain moments in life you stumble upon a video, a sentence, a sensation, and suddenly you know for sure that you are about to change? Not the kind of "I will try harder," but a quiet yet fierce feeling that life is preparing to move you into another chapter. No one tells you that. There is no clear sign, but you know, as if an invisible force is shifting everything around you. The interesting thing is, most people overlook that moment. They think it is just a fleeting emotion. But in Carl Jung's philosophy, those moments are the intersection between the unconscious and your real life, the place where the comeback journey always begins in silence. In today's video, we will dive straight into the real reason why you are seeing this message at this exact moment. Because according to Carl Jung, the unconscious never sends signals randomly. When someone lands on a video like this, it is often a marker of a quiet shift, signaling that you are stepping into the biggest comeback of your life. Not the kind of comeback you hope will arrive, but the kind that has already begun in the deeper layers you have not seen yet. Are you ready to come back in the exact moment you are watching this video? Number 1. The awakening of the unconscious. You are seeing this video not by accident. Have you ever experienced a vague but powerful feeling that your life is about to change? A kind of intuition without clear evidence, yet heavy with the sense that some door is quietly opening. You don't know what is coming. You don't know where to start, but you feel certain you are standing at a new threshold. That is exactly how a comeback begins. Not with loud signs, not with absolute certainty, but with a subtle vibration, like a knock from within that makes you turn your head ever so slightly. Jung called this the whisper of the self, the murmur of your true being. A viewer once shared with the channel that after many years of working a stable office job to the point she believed her life would always remain that way, something changed. One afternoon, sitting tired in front of her screen, she suddenly felt compelled to replay an old video she had watched long ago. A video about the comeback journey of someone who had once failed miserably. She didn't understand why she watched it that day, why her heart beat faster when she heard those lines. A few weeks later, she signed up for a course she had postponed for 2 years. 6 months later, she quit her job and started building her own project. When I asked, "What made you change so quickly?" she just smiled and said, "I'm not sure. I just know there was something that day that made me see life through a different lens." That is synchronicity. When the unconscious brings you to the exact place you need to be at the exact moment you need it. Even before you understand why, you are watching this video for that same reason. Not because YouTube recommended it randomly, not because you clicked out of curiosity, but because your unconscious has begun awakening a part of you that you once abandoned. Have you ever felt that you have outgrown your current life? Do things that once felt fine now feel too tight? Those conversations that once connected you with others now feel out of rhythm, not because you are becoming strange, but because you are entering what Jung called the cycle of conscious expansion, where the true self begins wanting to grow beyond old limits. Come back in the deepest sense of Jungian psychology is not achieving something big, but the process of returning to yourself after being lost for too long. A person stepping into their comeback doesn't need anyone to validate it. They simply feel deeply that something is changing. Just as spring arrives, a tree doesn't need to ask anyone whether it should sprout. It simply does because that is its nature, and so do you. This rising does not wait for you to be ready. It comes because its time has arrived. Think of the image of a river. Some parts flow gently. Others rush violently, swirling and crashing against rocks. But even when the surface looks chaotic, the current underneath knows exactly where it's going. Your life right now may resemble that turbulent section, outwardly unstable, but inwardly guided by a secret order moving you towards something greater. Synchronicity is the river's way of saying, pay attention, something important is happening. If you notice, in recent weeks, you may have felt small but strange shifts. You get bored easily by things that once excited you. Your intuition becomes clearer about what you should release. You become more sensitive to others' energy. And even though you feel tired, you also sense a new source of energy forming quietly. This is not random. This is the phase where life begins calling you home. Just as Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." The true self will call you, sometimes through anxiety, sometimes through a vague urge, sometimes through a video that appears exactly when it should. And you are in that moment now. You are here because your soul has begun shifting, even if your mind has not caught up. You are here because something greater is waiting for you to step into it. You are here because your comeback is no longer ahead. It is opening its door right now. And once you have felt that subtle calling from the deepest part of your soul, the comeback journey takes you to its second phase, the phase many mistake as a sign of being lost, but is actually the gateway to your most powerful transformation. Number 2, the transition phase. When the old dissolves and the new hasn't appeared. This is the strange period when you no longer belong to your old life, but the new one has not yet emerged. This phase always arrives quietly. You look around and realize you no longer resonate with things that once felt familiar, a stable job that now suffocates you, familiar conversations that feel heavy, passions that once warmed you, now cold as ash. You no longer feel inspired, but you also don't want to go back to anything from before. You stand between two shores, one collapsed, the other not yet formed. This in-between moment terrifies people the most because it has no map to follow, no guaranteed promise, no light at the end of the tunnel. But Jung called this the dark night of the soul, not because of its gloom, but because it is precisely here that old structures begin dissolving so the new can be born. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And this transition is exactly that soul pain, a shapeless ache that signals you are preparing to enter a deeper awakening. I once knew a woman who suddenly felt heavy and exhausted every morning, as if dragging her body across the day. Her job wasn't bad, her income fine, but something inside her had fallen out of rhythm. She tried forcing herself to be grateful, to persist, to maintain what was stable. But the more she forced, the emptier she felt. One day, during a long, draining meeting, she realized she couldn't hear anything anymore. Not because she lost focus, but because her heart no longer belonged there. A few months later, she quit, shocking everyone around her. "I don't know what's coming," she said. "I only know I cannot stay in the old anymore." Decisions like that rarely come from logic. They arise from a deep shift. The unconscious has prepared long before. The transition moment always comes with a sense of losing direction. You are no longer sure of anything, and that uncertainty makes you feel as if standing on soft ground. But strangely, that very ambiguity is the sign you are moving in the right direction. Because if you already knew exactly where you were going, that wouldn't be transformation. It would just be repetition. This phase is like walking through fog. You can't see the path, but each step you take reveals a part of the road that did not exist before. This image reminds me of the story of an old Zen master in Japan. A disciple came to complain that everything in his life had fallen into chaos. Unstable work, distant friends, broken routines. The master handed him a cup full of water and said, "Pour more." The disciple answered, "I can't, master. The cup is full." The master smiled. "So are you." He gently poured the water out and said, "Only when empty can you make space for the new to enter." That is the most delicate metaphor for the transition phase. Jung described the disorder as not a sign of failure, but life clearing out what no longer fits so the self can step in. Jung believed that every psychological rebirth must go through dissolution. The old ego, made of beliefs, roles, expectations, habits, must collapse for the true self to emerge. You feel lost, not because you are off track, but because you are becoming too big for your old life, and the old can no longer hold you. Imagine a seedling breaking through hard soil. From the outside, everything looks like destruction. The earth splits, dirt scatters, stones shift, but underneath is new life rising quietly. Your life is the same. When things feel unstable, remember the ground only cracks when something new wants to be born. And if right now you feel tired, empty, no longer belonging to anything familiar, do not panic. You are simply growing. And growth, according to Jung, always begins with dissolution. This is not a sign of ending, but an invitation into a new chapter of your being. Trust this process even if you see nothing clearly, because where you stand right now is the threshold of